When you fall in love, there is always a fear that most people have, and usually it's based on if and how the relationship will end. I wonder if he's gonna ghost me. I wonder if she will stop liking me. I hope this is the real him and he's just not love bombing me. I wonder if she's really this nice. I hope he doesn't cheat on me. Just various random thoughts that cross your mind when you're in the bliss part of a relationship. Especially when you have anxiety, it's like you are prepping for the impact of the end so it doesn't catch you off guard or hurt your feelings too much. But what if you are presented with an offer for the relationship not to end? There is a secure promise that the person you're with will be yours forever. Would you put your mind at ease and take the person up on that offer, or try to get comfortable with the unknown? Hey y'all, I'm BlaqueWitchYaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and today we are diving into a confession, which is the first time I ever received a confession via email. I kind of feel like a priest a little bit. So with this confession, of course, names have been changed for privacy, and today we are going to talk about Scott in Philadelphia. But I do want to thank Scott for sending in this email, because I am flattered that you all find me knowledgeable and trustworthy enough to send emails with your questions and concerns about life. However, I don't trust myself to give direct advice. Although some cases can be fixed by a simple spell or ritual, there are many times when I read your emails and I think you could benefit from therapy. The circumstances or questions you have are far beyond my pay grade and education. Now, I may not be a professional, but I know a company that has a bunch of trusted professionals ready to help you all, and that's BetterHelp, who is the sponsor of today's video. For myself, I know sometimes I need a quick tarot reading for some spiritual guidance, but for my mental clarity, I depend on my therapist. I know therapy can be intimidating to some people because there is a vulnerable aspect that comes with opening up to someone, but just know you are in good hands with BetterHelp. They have professionals who have years of experience and are trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. Getting advice from friends may be nice, but it's beneficial to have a trusted therapist in your back pocket, which you literally do with BetterHelp, because you can have your therapy sessions right on your phone or computer via phone call, video chat, or messaging. Is all up to you. When you sign up, BetterHelp usually matches you with a licensed therapist within just 48 hours. So before you use your phone to email me about your concerns, take the time to sign up for BetterHelp now by using my link provided in the description box below for a special discount. BetterHelp.com/BlaqueWitchYaya. You'll answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a professional who has years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/BlaqueWitchYaya, and thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. So Scott is in Philadelphia and he is 32 years old and is a blue-collar worker. He does the same routine every day: get up, cook breakfast, pack a lunch, go to work, come home, shower, eat, sleep, and do the same thing the next day. But he was content with life. He was happy with what he was doing for a living and his daily routine. He made very good money and had a stable upbringing, just a well-rounded guy. So we went over the earthly elements of Scott. Let's get into the spiritual side of Scott. Scott is a son of Ogun. Now, I do have a video on Ogun if you do not know who that Orisha is. And with him being the son of Ogun, he honors him in many ways. One way is that anytime he has work near a train track, he will leave an offering for Ogun every day until that specific project is done. So let's just say they're building a new office building, but it's by a railroad. Every day he's working on that building, he'll bring something for Ogun while he's right by a train track to take advantage of the location. He gets readings, go to different ceremonies and meetings or gatherings for the spiritual house he's a part of. He's really into it. Like, he's a spiritual man. He had friends. Everyone thought he was a gentle giant because he was very shy. So it was hard for him to make friends, but he still found a way to socialize and break through his shyness. Because in general, Scott was kind of scared to talk to people. Even though Scott is well put together now, he was bullied when he was younger because he had really bulky teeth. They were crooked, so they would call him Snaggletooth Scott. But when he got a little older, he got his teeth fixed. At the same time, he went through puberty, got bigger, taller, and by the time he was in high school, everyone was like, "Oh, Scott, you so fine. Scott is so fine." He even was voted most handsome in high school. So he went from being bullied to being voted most handsome for his superlative. So that switch kind of caught him off guard. So he still looked at himself like something was wrong with him because how mean people were to him growing up, and seeing some of those same people suddenly switch their perspective of him and how they treated him made him him very weary of people. A way to protect himself, Scott stayed to himself, which I understand. Which is why he does the same routine every day. He gets up, cook breakfast, pack a lunch, go to work, come home, shower, eat, and sleep. Because he find it peaceful to stay out the way. But that will all end on this very day. Because one day he would literally be in the way with the love of his life. So one day while at work, he was helping build a new building, so they were in the road on the property back and forth. So while at work, he had to be in the intersection of a road for a minute, and a car was coming towards him trying to turn right, but he was in the middle of the intersection, like in the way, and he didn't realize the light turned green, so he was just holding up traffic. So he's doing his thing, mapping out whatever, and he hears someone yell, "I'm enjoying the view, but can you scoot over, baby?" He turned around as he backed out the way, but he locked eyes with the woman who yelled, who was like leaning out the window, and he was just blushing and cheesing because she was cute. So he was like, oh my gosh, like she enjoyed the view. So they both were liking each other's views. So for a split second, it was just them smiling at each other, and then he continued with his work, right? So the day continued to go by. He's still working, but he's sitting off to the side taking a break. He's eating his lunch that he packs in the morning, of course, and just cooling off because this was in the middle of summer and it was hot. So keep that in mind. So he's eating his sandwich, then all of a sudden he hears, "You looked a little hot earlier, so here you go." And he looks up, and it's the woman from earlier handing him a cold bottle of water. He hops up and he walks her over to the sidewalk because she was like in her office work clothes, no helmet, no green vest, whatever they wear. She had on heels, slacks, just prancing around the work site, right? Tiptoeing in my heels.
Tiptoeing in my heels.
What you do, girl?
Tiptoeing in my heels.
What you do, girl?
Tiptoeing in my heels.
What you doing, girl?
Tiptoeing in my heels.
So he's like, "Oh, hey, thank you, I appreciate it, but you don't have on the right gear to walk around the work site." And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, just wanted to give you some cold water." And Scott says, "Okay, thank you, I appreciate it." And that's it. So she looks like, "Okay, well, stay cool out here." And she begins to walk off because she's kind of like, why was he so short with me just now? So Scott turns back around, walking to where he was taking his break, and his crew members are looking at him like, what are you doing? And giving him the signal to turn around because they're the ones that let her walk across the work site to get to him. So they're like, "Oh yeah, she cute, like go ahead over there and talk to him." They the one that let her scoot by, and he's up here like, "Oh my gosh, you don't have the right gear on, he can't be here." So he immediately turned around and he started to jog towards her to catch up, and he says, "Hey, I'm Scott." So she's almost near her car now, and she's unlocking her door, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Ricky." But she's still walking off because he was so short earlier, so she felt like she was in the way and he wasn't interested. So Scott blurts out, "You could keep walking away if you want, I'm enjoying this view." So she turns around blushing like, "What? Like this view? Like from my backside? I hope he's not watching me while I walk."
Oh God, I hope he's not watching me walk away.
All right.
He's watching.
And it was cute because he was playing off of what she said earlier about enjoying the view. So she was walking away, swishing away. So he's like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying this view." That is so cute. Oh, must be nice. So they start talking, they exchange numbers, and Scott asked her what time do she get off, and she's like 5, and he said, "Can you be ready by 7?" And she's like, "I can." So that very night, he takes her to dinner, sends her a car to bring her to the restaurant, and from 7:30 until the restaurant closed, they were just talking and laughing and drinking. Come to find out, they went to the same elementary school. Just a bunch of stuff in common. So with Scott being a little socially awkward, I don't know if y'all caught on to that, because he sees a pretty girl coming up to him and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you need a helmet." So I'm saying socially awkward, but Scott shared and he feels comfortable sharing that he's he has high functioning autism. So he's autistic, so he said sometimes it's hard for him to pick up on social cues, and I guess that's why the exchange earlier was a little awkward, because sometimes it's hard for him to read a room. But when it came to flirting, it was kind of cute because he would say something so flirtatious but in the calmest, most monotone voice. So it was kind of like, "Wait, what did you just say?" He'll just be like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying this view," and it's like, you trying to flirt? But Ricky liked it. She thought that was one of his cutest little qualities. So they started dating, seeing each other multiple times a week. And Scott was like, "I love her. She is so nice. She is so beautiful. I like being around her." He was head over heels for her. And they started dating. Like his whole routine was disturbed. He would get off of work now he's on the phone with her until they get home. They'll have movie nights, they'll go to each other's place. Everything was chemistry, you know what I mean? So everything was great. This did make Scott a little nervous because like I said before, he went from being bullied in elementary school to being voted most handsome in high school. So that switch always scared him, and that's what kind of made him weary of people, because he just seen how easily they can switch. So he didn't want to be caught off guard with becoming friends with someone, even males, like becoming friends with the male, the next thing you know, they're ops, they're enemies. Like he didn't like that switch because he's so closed off. So when he likes someone, he really likes them. If you're my friend, you're my brother. So he just was careful with, I don't want to get hurt in the process. So he wanted to protect himself. So even with him being head over heels over Ricky, he still had a fear like, oh, she's gonna get tired of me one day. I don't want to annoy her too much. I don't want to be around her too much. Am I being too pushy? So he constantly would ask her questions like, hey, like when he would call, he'll be like, hey, I'm not bothering you, am I? Or like, hey, I'm not holding you up, am I? Trying to just always ask questions to make sure he's in the clear and give these disclaimers. And she was like, no, you're fine. I want you to bother me. Like, it's okay. I like it. So eventually Ricky got comfortable with like, okay, I could be myself around her. But he still had a fear of like, this girl can just switch up on me, even though he didn't have any signs that the relationship would end or it would go wrong, because they were telling each other secrets, their red flags, what they need to work on, what some of their best qualities. They meshed very well. So there was nothing tangible like in reality that would make him worry, but it was just the fear he had in the back of his head that this could end, something could switch, like it can go wrong, because the relationships he had before, I don't know if he was just looking for something to go wrong and then it manifested, but it would just always be an end. So he always feared the end. That's why he just wanted to stay out the way all the time so he could be in control with what he does in his daily life. Even with work, he's always like, damn, I hope I don't get fired one day. Like anytime he starts to enjoy something too much, he's like, oh wait, hold on, what's about to happen? Just waiting on the shoe to drop. So Ricky knew that he had this fear, so she would constantly like reaffirm him like, hey, I'm enjoying my time here, I love being around you. She will verbalize how good she feels in the moment and his presence and his conversation to ease that worry, because Ricky had that concern too, because she's like, once men get what they want, they'll just up and leave. So her concern was coming from an aspect of men being men, she called it, but for him it was like, no one is going to like me for a long period of time, because he thought something was wrong with him, because how he grew up, that was hard for him to shake off, because he was so nice to people but people were so mean to him. So it was almost like someone else being equally nice to him kind of made him uncomfortable, and like it was just meant for them to be mean to him. So that was his concern, right? So let's continue on with Scott's spiritual practices. He would go to meetings, get readings and all that stuff. Life was so good with Ricky, like even she was coming up in his readings and the reader would be like, hey, you found love, this is going to be good. He would get all of these affirmations that things are going good. He shared with people in his spiritual house like, hey, I met this girl, she's so nice, blah blah blah. And some of the people even met her. Like she was becoming a part of his world, like a part of his spiritual routine. Now Ricky isn't spiritual, she isn't religious. She's one of those people, I just go with what fits. I'm open to anything, but I'm not tied to anything. So she's kind of like, you know, she's not spiritual, she's not religious, she just goes with the flow, right? So she's not judgmental of Scott's practices. So when she see him on her way to a date, he passed by a railroad track and he'll hop out real quick to leave an offering, or just the random stuff he would do, she didn't judge him for it. So that made Scott even more comfortable, but more nervous as well. Like, oh shoot, and she accept my spiritual practices, oh Lord, she really gonna leave me. Like he was getting nervous with how good it was. Like it's too good to be true. So one day while hanging out with his spiritual house members, his crew, I guess, he expressed his concern like, look, I met this girl, I know y'all know about her, I know y'all said she's all nice, but I gotta admit, man, I'm a little scared of her like just up and leaving me. And so while he's having this conversation, his, I believe it, I want to say the father of the house, of the spiritual house, he said, well, what makes you have this concern? Like, what's going on? So he's talking to him like, you know, I'm just so used to people getting tired of me or getting annoyed with me. I'm not used to people liking me for a long time, so I'm not sure what to do with all this energy. I really like her, but I'm scared to give my all to her, because I feel like if I fall for her and then it ends, I don't know where I would go. My mind will spiral out. I don't know how quick I'm gonna be able to bounce from it. He was just scared of being hurt, and that's what he was explaining to the father, the baba, the father of the house. He didn't give him a title. He was referring to him by name, so I'm not sure what position this older man had in the house. I'm assuming it's like the father figure, the elder. So basically the head honcho of the house. So he was telling the head honcho his concern, and then the head honcho was like, well, you're spiritual, so you know there's a solution to it. Now mind you, Scott was spiritual in the way of honoring his spirits, his ancestors. Of course, he knew how to do spells because that's what he was surrounded by, and rituals and different sacrifices and all that stuff. But he never tapped into it. His was more, I look out for my spirits so my spirits can look out for me. He didn't really do any type of magic work. So he was like, well, how do I do that? So he's thinking maybe there's some type of manifestation he can do or ritual he can do to protect himself from being hurt. And then, not the head honcho, but someone underneath the head honcho was like, well, you know, you can put something to work to make sure she sticks around. So Scott is like what? Like what are you talking about? And then he's like, you could do a stay with me spell. Then Scott's like, no, I'm not putting no spell on her. And then he's like, well, what if you put a spell on yourself? An attraction spell, and you just have this one person that you continuously want to attract. So it can be a come with me, stay with me. You're not putting a spell on her, you're just putting it on yourself as a way to protect yourself. It's like a protection, reaffirming love, commitment spell. And Scott's like, well, I'm not really a warlock, I don't really do magic, I just give offerings. And so they offered him like, hey, well, we'll do this spell for you because we could see your concern. We see you really love her. You treat her right. So let's just do something to keep you guys tied together. And then Scott is like, well, what if she isn't meant to be with me? Then I have this spell on her. And then they're like, well, the way we can do the spell, she can still leave whenever she's ready, or you can leave whenever you're ready. Then Scott is like, but then what's the concern? Then what's the point of doing a spell when she could leave whenever she's ready? Then the head honcho's assistant, we'll call him, is like, that's the thing, she wouldn't want to leave, but she can leave when she's ready, but she's not going to want to. But she has the option, but she won't want to. Then Scott is like, okay, well, what do you need from me? And then they start gathering all their materials, and they're like, just her name. Then Scott is like, you don't need like a strand of hair, some type of DNA. And they're like, no, we're not putting a spell on her, we're putting it on you. They did a ritual to make him attractive, but only to that one person. That's why they only needed her name. So initially Scott was a little hesitant because he's like, damn, like I'm doing a spell to protect myself so I won't get hurt in love. But then he's trying to make himself feel better, like, well, maybe this is like just a protection spell in general, right? It's just like a twist on it. I'm not putting a spell on her, I just want her to stick with me, so it's not technically her, it's me. So he's just trying to make himself feel better by rewording the fact that you're using her in a spell to keep her around. But he kind of felt bad about it, but then he eased his mind off a little bit as the candle burnt down. So it kind of made him more comfortable too, knowing like, okay, well, I can really show affection and love her because I know she's not going to leave me. So for a couple years have went by. Scott was like, I am with this girl. This is my lady. You are my lady. He just went full in. And Ricky's like, oh my God, like I met this man. He's so great. She's bragging to all her homegirls about it. So she's like, listen, this is amazing. I done found the man of my dreams. So they're getting really serious, like planning their life together, like what it will look like for them as a couple. What's going to be their routine? What are some of their goals? Where do they want to live? Like they're planning all of this out, right? So it's getting to the point where Scott wants to propose. So he's like, before I propose to her, I really want to make sure that she is mine for sure. Like I don't want to propose to her knowing that she's under some type of spell that can be broken, and then now we're married and then we have to get a divorce. That'll really hurt him, right? So after these couple of years of like being boyfriend and girlfriend, he's like, okay, I'm going to go back and ask him to remove the spell so I can just make sure that she's mine for sure. So during his next meeting, he's talking to the head honcho and the head honcho assistant. Y'all, I know these people have titles. He just didn't say the titles, so I'm just giving them names. So he's talking to the head honcho and the head honcho assistant, right? And so he's like, listen, I'm about to propose to Ricky within the next few months. I just want to make sure that she's mine for sure and she really likes me for sure. And I can't propose to her knowing that I did some type of ritual and spell work for her to stick around. So the head honcho and the head honcho assistant are like, okay, so you want us to remove this spell and cleanse you of it and just see, does she stick around? And Scott's like, yeah, I mean, it's scary, but I wouldn't feel right knowing I'm married to someone because we burnt the candle. And they're like, okay, so we'll do a cleansing of the spell. We'll remove it. We'll do this, and that. And Scott is like, okay, do you need anything from me? And they're like, no, we'll handle it on our end. It'll be removed by the end of this week. So Scott is nervous all week. Like, oh my God, it's going to be the week that she break up with me. This is going to be the week where she's not in love with me anymore. Everything's about to go wrong. We're about to start arguing. So he's just ready for the shoe to drop because he thinks this entire time she's only with me because of this spell. So the week goes by. The week actually goes very smooth. The next week they went on a little vacation together. They are still dating. Nothing has changed. So Scott is like, okay, well maybe this is like the residuals of the spell, so we'll just give it some more time. A couple months pass by and everything is still going smoothly. Like nothing changed. There's no random arguments popping up, no change of feelings. She's still being the same affectionate Ricky that she always is. So Scott is like, all right, so like, okay, I could start ring shopping and seeing what she likes and get this proposal planned out, right? Goes to ask his head honcho and the head honcho assistant, like, hey, like, did y'all remove the spell because everything's going good? I haven't seen any changes. I just want to make sure, like, were y'all able to do it on your end? Because they said they didn't need anything from Scott. So Scott is like, how do I know that you really did it in the first place? Because for the first spell, you needed me to do some stuff, but now it's just like, we got it. So Scott is like, oh, I just wanted to make sure that you guys did it. Like, do I get to see like any candles that were burned or some water that turned black? Like, what's going on? So the head honcho and the head honcho assistant are just sitting there quiet. And Scott is like, you guys didn't remove it? I knew it. She was acting the same way. I knew it still had to be the spell because I knew something was going to go wrong. I knew we were going to start arguing or it would be some type of change. Like, you guys need to remove it. I'm not proposing to her knowing that she's under some type of spell. And then the head honcho assistant is like, she's not under a spell. Okay, well, sorry. I'm the one under the spell, not her. However you want to phrase it. I don't want to propose to her because I know she's with me under some type of conditions because we did spell work. Like, it was good for then to just help me with my emotions, but I'm a little more mature now, and if it's time for us to break up, we'll just break up. And then the head honcho is like, you're not under a spell neither. Well, kind of. And Scott is like, a spell or protection, whatever you want to call it, remove it. I want to make sure she's with me just because she's with me. And then they're like, so what changed your mind? Like, why all of a sudden you want it removed? And then he's like, I told y'all a couple months ago I wanted this removed because I'm getting serious with her now. I want to propose to her. After getting to know her, I feel like I matured. I gained more confidence. I know she's not mine to possess and keep. So I don't want any type of control over her. I want her to have the freedom to be with me because she wants to. If she chooses not to, I'm okay with it. I'm a big boy now. I grew up. So the head honcho is listening to Scott go on and on and on how he wants to be honest in the marriage and he's starting to feel bad and he's more mature now. Blah, 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 blah. Then he says, Scott, listen. We never put an attraction spell on you. We never did any type of spell work with Ricky's name in it. She wasn't involved in anything. But Scott is like, I gave you her name. I showed you how she looks. I told you how tall she. I gave you all that information. And the head honcho was like, right. And we did nothing with it. But for you, after hearing you and your concerns, we heard just, you just need a little confidence. So all we did was a confidence spell. We see on our end that she's the one for you. You're just lacking confidence. So we just did a confidence ritual. Remember that part of the ritual where you had to say those things in the mirror? Yeah, it was just to boost your confidence. That's it. So Scott is like, so she's not she's not with me because of a candle? And they're like, no, we did nothing with her name. We just let you think that we did to make you feel a little bit more comfortable so you wouldn't doubt the ritual. And Scott is like, what the? So he's laughing it off like, y'all tricked me, but he's also trying to process. So this entire time, things were just going smoothly simply because they were going smoothly. And the lack of worry he had about her leaving wasn't from the fact that he knew, okay, she's not going to leave me because she's under a spell. But it was from the fact that they knew that he needed confidence. So his lack of worry and concern and insecurity was because he did a ritual to boost his confidence. That's why they didn't tell him what they did for the ritual. Like, oh, don't worry about it. We got it on our end. Because they knew what he needed in general was just confidence on his end. Because they could see that that girl was not going nowhere. So this entire time, he never put a spell on her. It was just genuine, true love. And you guys know I shared a few times that I am not one for love rituals, but I'm kind of biased because I'm not a lover girl in general. Like, I never had a dream of, oh, I want to get married and have kids. A relationship was never a part of my goals. Anytime I make a vision board, a marriage and a ring is not up there. But that's me. So I feel like I'm a little biased because I'm not fazed by it too much. It's like, if I stay single for the rest of my life, I'll be okay. But I know some people are very passionate and desire love, so they do some crazy things to get what they want in life, and sometimes it's taking people's free will. And that's the thing, I don't feel like you should take someone's free will. You should give them the option to be with you or not. But that is a confession and the moral of the story. He also confessed this to Ricky as well later on, and they both just kind of laughed it off because in the end she wasn't under a spell, so it wasn't much to worry about. But he just felt bad in general that he was considering it and was comfortable with it, but it all worked out in the end. So you guys let me know, have you guys ever done a love spell, a love ritual? How did it go? Do you sometimes feel like you want to do it to ease some worry? Or are you like me and Scott and not wanting to have control over anyone? Let me know down below. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. And like I always say, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe of the soul. Until next time, you guys, Ashe, baby.
Becky